Straight ahead, one-on-one, what Senator John Cornyn told me about his combative primary fight against Attorney General Ken Paxton. Next steps with the new congressional maps approved by the Texas legislature, what North Texas Congressman Marc Veasey says he needs now, well before the midterm election. And with time ticking in the second special session, is a bill to ban THC stalled again? Good morning, I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Hope you're having a great Labor Day weekend. We begin with the Republican primary for U.S. Senate, and some recent polls have shown the race between incumbent John Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton is tightening. While we are still 6 months away from the March 3rd primary, one poll that received a lot of attention is the one from Texas Southern University and YouGov this month. It shows Paxton leading Cornyn by 5 percentage points, 44 to 39%. 17% said they are unsure. I spoke with Senator Cornyn in Dallas last week about how he thinks he can beat Paxton and the one poll that troubled him.
There was a poll result that I guess Cornyn released a couple of days ago showing that he would likely win against a Ken Paxton Republican nominee for Senate. We haven't elected a Democrat in 30 years in Texas, and we shouldn't start now.
So is that your message to Republican primary voters, many of them grassroots conservatives who favor Paxton? Is that your message to them? Be careful who you vote for?
Well, I think that's part of the message, certainly, but I think ultimately, Jack, I think, this is a test of character and whether character still matters. What I hear from the Paxton camp is that all of the problems he's had, all the self-inflicted damage he's inflicted on himself, that's all baked in the cake and that people don't care. I believe that character does still matter, and I believe I've demonstrated I can be trusted and that I have been effective on behalf of the state of Texas. It's too important, this job's too important to send somebody up there who basically wants to become part of the performance artists in Washington, D.C., who want to be famous, they want to raise money, they want to get the most clicks on social media, but they don't really want to do the hard work. I've demonstrated that I am willing to do the hard work, and I enjoy it. And Texas deserves effective representation.
When you listen to all the analysts, they say, because the grassroots conservatives who are most apt to go out and vote in the primary favor Paxton, that you've got to really bring in a lot more Republicans, a lot more people into the primary. And so how do you intend to do that?
Well, I think while there is certainly some support for the Attorney General out there based on this perception that he is some sort of MAGA warrior and that he is favored even by President Trump. But I know President Trump well. I've worked with him closely for a number of years now. And I know what he really cares about is his agenda and what he got elected on. So it is early, as you point out, but we've already seen that the polls have moved closer together based on just some very simple messaging based on my voting record supporting President Trump. And now it's essentially a dead heat. We knew this was going to be a competitive election all along, but it does matter to your question about who shows up at the polls. And I've been encouraging as many people as I can to vote, because with a low turnout election, if we nominate somebody who's unelectable in the general election, Republicans and the state will be harmed the most.
You spoke about character before and the importance of it, and on social media just the other day you responded to Ken Paxton's post on X about the new state law on posting a copy of the 10 Commandments in each classroom. And you said, might want to brush up on the 10 Commandments, Ken. What did you mean by that, and which of the commandments were you referring to?
All 10 of them. I think this is indicative of the hypocrisy that we've seen from the Attorney General, who pretends to be something he's not. And I think we've been reminded time and time again, from the impeachment, from the indictment, that for securities fraud, to the whistleblower lawsuit, and what he's done to his own family, that he is self-destructive, he's reckless, and he can't be trusted. And so that was the thrust of that.
What do you say to conservatives who were upset with the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which you really led after Uvalde? And I've heard some conservatives, and they characterize this as this bill incentivizing states to pass red flag laws. And so they were upset about that.
Well, Jack, I'm a conservative. I got a conservative record, and frankly, in that bill, we didn't do anything about red flag laws. Texas doesn't have one, but what we did make sure is the funding that was available to states that did have red flag laws was also available to Texas for crisis intervention, for training more school counselors, for hardening our schools, and providing for the single largest investment in community-based mental health care in American history, without infringing on the rights of a single law-abiding citizen. And you may have noticed that the Texas legislature actually followed our lead on the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act and extended background checks for mental health commitments and criminal records to 16-year-olds, which is basically the thrust of what the bill did. But it's not a good answer to these parents who lost their innocent children, that we don't care and we're not going to do anything. I'm proud of what we were able to do because I believe it saved lives and will continue to save lives.
I want to ask you about some headlines. Obviously, national attention over these new congressional maps here in the state of Texas. And what did you make of all this?
Well, I know that redistricting is one of the most contentious, most political acts that can be performed by a legislature. And it's very personal to members of the legislature because you're redrawing the lines they've run in. Their relationship with their constituents is maybe disrupted or changed. But Texas has changed over time. It's become more Republican. President Trump has made significant inroads into the Hispanic community, which I've always reached out to. These are folks who are culturally conservative. They should be Republicans, but they found a welcome home with President Trump, and now they deserve to be counted in the way these districts are drawn. But as you know, these will always end up in litigation, and so now the El Paso federal court is going to be considering this. There's a lot of moving parts here, both factually and legally, but I'm confident these seats will be upheld.
I once again requested an interview with the Attorney General, but his campaign did not respond to my request. In the Democratic primary, former North Texas Congressman and former Senate candidate Colin Allred has jumped into the race along with astronaut Terry Virts. Former Congressman Beto O'Rourke, current Congressman Joaquin Castro, and State Representative James Tallarico are all considering entering the primary. The same Texas Southern University YouGov poll found O'Rourke leading Allred by 20 percentage points, 58 to 38%. And a quick update on the Republican primary for Attorney General. We told you last week that Central Texas Congressman Chip Roy jumped into the race. He was endorsed by Senator Ted Cruz. Another candidate, Aaron Reitz, won Paxton's endorsement. President Trump is activating more National Guard troops, and they will be coming to Texas. Sarah Jenkins explains in this week's brief.
The Trump administration plans to deploy up to 1,700 National Guard troops across 19 states, including Texas, to support immigration and crime enforcement efforts. Texas is expected to have the largest deployment. According to the Pentagon, the mission, authorized under Title 32, follows a DHS request and includes direct interaction with ICE custody individuals. Under Title 32, Guardsmen in Texas would remain under the command and control of Governor Greg Abbott. Texas National Guard troops were previously activated in June to help maintain order during statewide protests against federal immigration enforcement efforts. Over 900 National Guard members are already deployed in D.C.
Thank you, Sarah. Coming up, why North Texas Congressman Marc Veasey says he needs more time to decide where to run and why he believes the March primary could be delayed. When Eye on Politics comes right back. Welcome back to Eye on Politics on this Labor Day weekend. The legal fight over newly approved congressional maps in Texas is on. A 3-judge panel at federal court in El Paso set a hearing for a preliminary injunction to begin October 1st after the NAACP and other groups filed suit claiming the new maps violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and prevent blacks and Hispanics from receiving fair representation. The newly signed congressional maps by Governor Abbott are creating a lot of uncertainty among Democrats about next year's midterm elections. The newly drawn maps are expected to turn 5 congressional districts in Texas from blue and Democratic majorities to red and Republican majorities. And as a result of the new maps, the Cook Political Report has changed the ratings for the Texas congressional districts. The 9th congressional district in the Houston area moves from solid D to solid R. The 28th congressional district in South Texas flips from lean D to toss-up, in part because of longtime Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar's popularity and voting record. The 32nd congressional district in North Texas moves from solid D to solid R. Another South Texas seat, the 34th congressional district, goes from toss-up to lean R. And the 35th congressional district in the Austin area moves from solid D to likely R. In North Texas, 3 Democrats hold congressional seats. However, under the new maps, there will likely only be 2 Democrats. So Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman Julie Johnson, and Congressman Marc Veasey have to figure out which districts they will run in. Crockett, now in the 30th district, may continue to run in this seat, but she also told us earlier this month she is considering running in the 33rd district, which is now represented by Marc Veasey. This district is currently in both Tarrant and Dallas counties, but under the new map, it is only in Dallas County. Congresswoman Johnson has said she will either run in the 33rd district, but won't primary Congressman Veasey, or she'll run in the 24th congressional district, which is in Tarrant and Dallas counties, against Republican Beth Van Dyne. We asked Veasey about this last week.
What I've been urging everyone to do is let's wait to see exactly what happens with this court action. I think that there are some serious violations that occurred in the district that I represent currently, which is 33, one of the districts down in Houston, 2 of the districts down in the Harris County area. I think there have been some very serious violations in the drawing of those districts, and I think that you could see a redraw before the primary starts. And what I like to always remind people that I think that everyone has forgotten, that when I got elected in 2012, I'll never forget, it was November, it was the day before Thanksgiving. I was out having dinner with my family when I got the call that the map had been redrawn and that the primaries were going to be delayed. And if you recall, back in 2012, the primary didn't occur until May 31st, and the runoff didn't occur until July 31st. And so it would not surprise me at all if you saw a delay in these primaries, because I think that there are some serious voting rights violations, and I don't think that the court is ready to throw the Voting Rights Act, particularly Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act out.
We've seen other members of Congress, starting to make announcements in other parts of the state.
Yeah.
And I know that Congresswoman Johnson just over the weekend said that she's looking at either 33, but she's not going to primary you, or 24. And Congresswoman Crockett, when I spoke with her, said that her house is in the new 33, and so she was considering that in addition to staying in 30. So somebody's going to be,
right,
if these new maps, go into place.
Right.
So, I mean, have you entertained the idea of, not running for Congress again?
I'm looking at all the different options. I haven't really had a chance to think long about that, just because I think that, again, there are a lot of different moving pieces and people are looking at different seats. And I do feel pretty confident that there will be some sort of changes to the maps because the Republicans did overreach in the judicial part of all of this. And there's real discriminatory effects in these maps.
You think that the primary is going to be delayed?
I would not be surprised if the primary would be delayed.
And how much of a chance? 50-50? Where do you
I think it's 50-50. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think the way that the Republicans drew these maps, I think that they purposely drew them in order to have certain sections, particularly Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I think they specifically drew these maps wanting to challenge Section 2 in the Supreme Court. I don't think that Republicans drew these maps thinking that they would not be challenged. I think they wanted them to be challenged, and I think that someone like, Greg Abbott or Ken Paxton, who have not really been pro-civil rights Republicans at all, I think that they want to put that feather in their hat to say that they were the ones that went to the Supreme Court and they got Section 2 watered down even more or completely abolished.
Congressman Veasey was in Dallas last week touring Dallas County Health Clinics in Garland with Health and Human Services Director Dr. Philip Wong and County Judge Clay Jenkins. Dr. Wong told us funding cuts by the Trump administration have impacted immunization programs.
I mean, we have already seen, we lost about $4 million with the cuts to the COVID funds, and they were, they were COVID, but they were used beyond COVID. So some of that was for vaccinations, and we were doing certainly COVID vaccine, but also flu shots, childhood vaccines. I mean, we had to lay off 25 staff. We had to cancel over 50 of our community vaccination clinics that were out in the community, these outreach pop-up events over the next year. And that was in the middle of the measles outbreak in Texas, where we had even approached some of the schools that had low vaccination rates and worked with them to try to do some events at their schools. And we were having to cancel these things, again, for childhood vaccinations in the middle of a measles outbreak.
What does that mean then for public health?
So, again, these are services, vaccinations we can't give. We also had 4 of those staff were epidemiologists. So these are the investigators that follow up on any reportable condition, whether foodborne outbreak or measles, when we're doing investigations of suspect measles cases, interviewing them, finding out what their risks were, any exposures for so many things. And then also we had to lay off 2 lab staff and some of the funds for some of our lab equipment that, again, go beyond just testing for COVID, but we were looking at building our capacity to do more measles testing locally. So all of these things are impacted. Because
I think all of us want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. They should be bringing in a scalpel and not a sledgehammer, because this approach is going to make public health care in Dallas County and the entire Metroplex much worse for all residents here, regardless of where you happen to live.
Congressman Veasey, along with other Democratic lawmakers, have sharply criticized U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s leadership and views on vaccine. And last week, some of the CDC's top people were either fired or resigned. Secretary Kennedy was at the Texas Capitol for bill signings and was asked about the shakeup at the CDC.
I will confirm that we let go Susan Menares yesterday. I'm not going to talk about personnel issues. There's a lot of trouble at CDC, and it's going to require getting rid of some people over the long term in order for us to change the institutional culture and bring back pride and self-esteem and make that agency the stellar agency that it's always been.
The day before, Kennedy praised state lawmakers for passing 3 bills that Governor Abbott signed. The new laws provide education to Texas students about nutrition and prohibit school districts from serving food with additives that are linked to diabetes, obesity, and other illnesses. They also prevent people from using food stamps to buy sweetened drinks and candy. The laws take effect tomorrow. Up next, the ban on THC that the Texas Senate passed now appears stalled in the House, or is it? We'll talk about it when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas returns. Now, an update on the special session, and one issue that remains up in the air is a ban on THC products. The Texas Senate passed a bill banning THC. That measure, plus 2 other different House bills, have all been sent to the House Public Health Committee, where they have all sat without a hearing for nearly 2 weeks. Some lawmakers say they believe the bills may be dead, but the chief of staff for the committee's chairman, Representative Gary Van Dever, said discussions are ongoing, and that suggests there is a possibility of a last-minute deal. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick spoke about the Senate ban on THC during a campaign-related news conference 2 weeks ago.
This is a dangerous drug that we must ban. You can't regulate. If you regulate something, you legalize it. We passed a ban. That's where we stand, and that's where we'll always stand.
CBS News correspondent Jason Allen recently asked Governor Abbott what he would do if faced with another ban.
I don't think we will be back in that same spot. I've been working with members of the Texas House, and I think there's agreement that we need to ban it for children. We need to ban synthetics. We want to get it off of every corner store, gas station, and different things like that. So I think there is a pathway forward that will get passed.
And remember, you can watch the full interviews with Senator Cornyn, Congressman Veasey, and Dr. Wong from our show today on our CBS Texas YouTube page. And once you're there, please click the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics. Thanks for watching. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. From all of us here, have a great Labor Day weekend.